One night, while he is using his Ouija board, he enters into a state of psychosis. In this altered reality, he says he meets Satan. Satan asks him to serve him. Luis says yes, because why not? To which Lucifer replies, quote, "Kill, that with killing, many things may come." Okay. Luis Garavito, also known as La Bestia, or the Beast, is a prolific Colombian serial killer, child molester, pedophile, pederast, rapist, and necrophile. That's quite a list. Who in 1999 admitted to raping, torturing, mutilating, and murdering 147 children, mostly boys and teenagers. He is confirmed to have killed 189 as he continues to confess to more murders. Yet based on his map that he drew, his kill count most likely exceeds 400. He is considered the world's worst serial killer. Hey there, my name's Misha. Welcome to All Things True Crime, or welcome back if you're a regular. If you enjoyed this video, please like it so more people will see it, and subscribe to my channel so you won't miss my next video. The subscribe button is right below the video, and then if you ding the bell, you'll get notified the next time I upload. That's All Things True Crime. It's truly chilling. The story of Luis Garavito, or Little Luis, as I like to call him, begins in Genova, a relatively small municipality of around 10,000 people, in the southern part of the Quindío department. I'm sure I'm going to botch all of these names, and for that I'm sorry. In Colombia, a department is a country subdivision, and Colombia is divided into 32 of these. Each one has a governor and an assembly. They're elected by popular vote every 4 years. Now, departments are a grouping of municipalities, basically, and Genova is one of these municipalities in the Quindío department. Municipalities have mayors, so I guess you could think of a department kind of like a state and a municipality as a city. At least that's my limited understanding. Luis is born in Genova, Quindío in January 1957. He is the oldest of 7 children born to Manuel Antonio Garavito and Rosa Delia Cubillos. Mr. Daddy-O is, as usual for serial killer fathers, an alcoholic, womanizer, and extremely physically and emotionally abusive to his children, specifically Luis. Interestingly though, his mother is also violent. We usually see, one parent being abusive, but not very often both. So she shows little love and affection. She's mostly ice cold towards him. Before Luis enters primary school, his family is forced to move to Cillian Bugalagrande Val del Cacua, a tiny town in a municipality, in a department in western Colombia. His parents' marriage is shaky at best. Not a surprise, given how abusive and angry they both are. As a result, his life is just plagued by years and years of incessant fighting, physical and emotional abuse, and severe neglect. When Luis is around 7, his father straps him to a tree and beats him with a tree branch. What the hell, He is subject to this abuse by his father for defending his mother during one of his father's many abusive episodes. It seems his father's abusive episodes are sporadic and inconsistent at best, and so much so that Luis and his siblings and his mother run and hide whenever he comes home from work or wherever he was, because they don't know if and when he's going to explode. That could be personality issues, or that could also be another control, right? They never know when he's going to blow up, so he always has control of the room and of their emotions. What a dirtbag. Poor little Luis is subject to constant ridicule from his father. He calls him names like imbecile, bastard, son of a bitch. In fact, his father always refers to him by these names, and never by something nice. Luis is referred to by school children and teachers as a shy kid and rather reserved. As such, here we go, he's constantly bullied. His nickname from the bullies is Squiggle. Okay? He gets this name because he wears glasses. Even though the teachers witness the constant bullying, they refuse to intervene and stop it. Poor kid. So he's abused at home by both parents and abused at school by bullies. Defends his mom, gets more abused by his dad, physical, emotional, verbal, mental. Oh boy. No surprise then that he develops quite a violent temper during these formative years. He loves learning and is very eager in school, yet he is frustrated with himself for not being able to understand basic school concepts and subjects. He makes no friends and is ostracized as a result of the bully's influence on other kids. When Luis is around 11, his father forces him to quit school in the middle of the 5th grade in order to get a job to help support the family. His father takes it a step further and forbids him from having any friends, including a girlfriend. At age 12, for reasons that we don't really know, he begins receiving brutal, severe sexual abuse by a local drugstore owner and his father's friend, who is a neighbor of the family. Things he underwent include being burned by a candle, violently bitten, and sliced with a razor blade during these sexually abusive episodes. This extreme trauma causes permanent psychological damage, which presents itself in ways that prevent Luis from being able to have proper sexual experiences. Knowing his father will not believe him and wouldn't care anyway, he keeps this abuse to himself. And this abuse lasts for 2 years, from age 12 to 14. During these traumatic years, it's an understatement, he begins stoning and dissecting birds as an outlet. He immediately feels remorse and shame. This morphs into him attempting to convince his siblings, who all share the same bed, 7 siblings, same bed, okay, to begin sleeping naked with him. He uses his influence among his siblings to start fondling them, as well as abusing a 6-year-old neighbor boy. At this point, he begins showing signs of extreme aggression and starts withdrawing from society. He is now ready to, quote, take revenge on the world. At age 14, a neighbor attacks Luis, beats him, and rapes him. At 15, he flirts with women, trying to have a sexual experience, but is constantly rejected, which only further fuels his frustration and aggression. He has a lot of access to free alcohol during these years, with a grandfather and 2 uncles, all being alcoholics. He joins their ranks and also becomes a young alcoholic. Couple this addiction with his aggressive tendencies and sexual deviance, and he finds himself getting kicked out of his parents' house over and over. One time he attempts to rape a 5-year-old. It's at this point he finally admits his sadistic nature and desire for young boys. Yikes. After the failed rape, he soon tries again, this time at a train station in Bogota. He attempts to assault a 6-year-old boy. The boy screams, cops arrest Luis, and he tells them he only wanted to lightly abuse the child. That's somehow okay? I don't understand. His wonderful pops is infuriated with him, but not for reasons you might think. He's not mad at Luis for the attempted rape. He's mad that he didn't try to rape a woman instead of a boy. Have I said yikes in a bit? Yikes. Finally, at 16, his father kicks him out for the final time, just for good this time. The reason? Homosexual behavior. My guess is the repeated attempts to rape young boys gets the best of his dad, and he's just done. Although, again, not for the right reasons, not for criminal behavior, but for homosexual behavior. A totally different reason indeed. Something psychiatrists will eventually say is that the lack of stable home life environment for him is a key contributor to his antisocial developmental issues. Getting kicked out of his parents' place motivates him to work harder. He gets a job at a store of some type and also begins studying marketing. That sounds promising. However, his childhood trauma and extreme aggression continue to bubble to the surface, and he loses his cool with coworkers and bosses, and sometimes even customers, to the point of physical altercations. This results in him losing his job. He rebounds, though, as a street vendor selling religious icons. He also takes a job as a migrant worker. Weird side story here. So for a stretch, he works on a coffee plantation. He falls in love with an older woman, a single mother, and a school teacher. He lives with her from time to time and attends church with her. He claims to have had a child with her, although no one has been able to verify his claim. Odd claim to make, since he claims to have never had intercourse with her. Okay. Apparently, he befriends a good number of women with children and is known to treat them like his own kids. These women claim he is loving when sober and is known by his friends as being a relatively nice guy, even though he is an angry drunk with a violent temper. In one of these stupors, he swears to murder his father. I don't blame him for wanting to do that. Sounds like his dad was a real dirtbag. Poor Luis. In his case, I think it is mostly nurture that is to blame for his psychosis, paranoia, and depression. I mean, maybe he has some tendencies or leanings towards aggression and alcoholism, since both run in his family, but his home life absolutely sucked. I mean, it was freaking terrible. Like some of the worst ever. Both parents abusive, sexually abused by multiple neighborhood men. He didn't stand a chance of being normal, if you ask me. I mean, I'd like to know more about his siblings and, like, what happened to them. Obviously, they didn't end up in prison for being serial killers, or we would know about them. But, like, what happened to them? Just, did they become successful, or were they homeless alcoholics? I mean, what happened? So for the majority of the 1970s and 80s, he molests young boys and girls. All of his mental illnesses are in full effect, and he is totally spiraling. He has emotional rants when drunk, and he's unable to perform with women. He rants about hating his family and murdering his father over and over. As he descends into deeper and deeper alcoholism, he decides to seek out help and joins AA in 1978. He starts going to a church and gets a job. He moves, gets another job, and then is fired for fighting. No surprise, right? There's a history there. As a result of that incident, he attempts suicide and is kept in a psych ward until 1979. He is treated for depression and given meds for psychosis, because that's what people as disturbed as him are going to do. Take their medicine daily and then get it refilled on a monthly basis. Okay. Makes sense to me. Not. So as he has regular visits with a psychiatrist, he chooses to bury his pederast inclinations and his inability to perform with women, just not mentioning either of them to his therapist. That's not a good call. He clearly wants to hide his deviant behavior, and for obvious reasons. So he has a particularly odd routine at this point in his story. So he goes to church, expresses remorse, even beating his chest during the prayers. Then he attends Alcoholics Anonymous, visits a psychiatrist, and then ends his day at Valencia Park, which is known as being a main location for child prostitution. So, like a wash, rinse, repeat. He commits these terrible, disgusting acts at night, then is remorseful at church in the morning, attends AA, sees a shrink, and then molests again? Yikes. In 1980, he meets a beautician, a single mother, and they start dating. The relationship seems positive for him, but, it doesn't last very long, as she likes to spend, and he can't sustain her spending habits. During their, however short relationship, they don't sleep together. Instead, he satiates his desires by traveling to a nearby town and raping boys. So naturally, this behavior escalates, and instead of committing rape once a month, he adds torture to this already sadistic behavior. He uses torture methods that were used on him growing up. So rape turns into physical torture plus rape. It takes everything I have to not call this guy every name in the book. He is the scum of the earth, is what he is. So his trophy, if you will, is that he writes their names in a notebook that he then takes to church with him to pray for them by name. Out of a guilty conscience, perhaps? That's weird. At some point along the path of destruction that he's on, he decides it would be fun to learn about the occult and magic. And, the witchcraft type of magic, not the pull a quarter out of your ear magic. So tarot readings and specifically Satanism. Great. Swell and perfect. So he's turning his life around. False. It doesn't take him too many visits to palm readers and others to determine that they are as clueless about his future as he is. Not only does he love reading up on Satan, but he's also a big fan of, guess who? Hitler. Yeah, Hitler. And it gets much worse. Luis decides that not only is Hitler a great guy, but he decides that he is his idol, that he admires him, and says that he likes the concentration camps and the idea of mass graves. So, yeah, real messed up dude. During this time, he fantasizes about buying a machine gun and mowing down his entire family before then committing suicide. Yikes. Between 1980 and 1992, Luis rapes and tortures at the very least, 200 young children. The story goes that one night he is using his Ouija board and he enters into a state of psychosis. In this altered reality, he supposedly meets Satan, and Lucifer himself asks him to serve him. Luis says yes, because, why not? And Satan replies with killing, many things may come. Crazy people talking to the devil, murdering folks. How about you just don't try to summon the devil? It's pretty easy. How about that? People are crazy. Or a lunatic. So with his newfound mission from the devil himself, La Bestia attempts his first murder on October 1, 1992. In a drunken stupor, he targets a young boy selling baked goods and cigars on the street. He lures the boy away, not sure how really, but with the plan of taking him into the woods to commit his crimes. Instead, he brings him to the hotel sector and is somehow interrupted by the police and beaten, with the cop going as far as smashing the butt of his revolver into the back of Luis's head. Then they rob him and let him go. I mean, he deserved it, right? Much worse, actually. A short 3 days later, he's once again craving murder. Cuckoo and loco. It's now October 4th, 1992, and he murders for the first time. A 13-year-old boy, he spots him walking near a bazaar that he had been drinking at. He says the reflection of the moonlight triggered something within him. He called it a strange force that reminded him of his childhood. Sounds like a psychological trigger of some kind that obviously enraged him. Jeez. So he begins to follow the boy, stopping along the way to buy some rope, and a butcher's knife. Yikes. He finally catches up to the boy and offers him money for work. He lures the boy to a rail yard. He's later found with his front teeth knocked out, severe cuts to his rectum and his throat, and with his genitals severed. After this murder, he begins wearing different disguises to evade identification by witnesses and victims. Dates get a little fuzzy here, but some reports say he is thought to have started murdering in 1988 in Ecuador, but that hasn't been verified. So I mentioned earlier that he keeps names written down in a notebook as his trophy of sorts. Well, over time that evolves into a suitcase worth of documents that he pulls from victims as trophies, like tickets, receipts, sometimes articles of clothing if he's feeling extra disgusting and evil, then maybe a toe. Whew. He keeps this suitcase with various friends and family members, with them completely unaware of what's inside. Eventually he stops taking toes for fear of police dogs identifying human remains. In June of 1996, he falls on hard times after losing a temp job selling air fresheners. How is that okay. He begs a lady friend to allow him to stay with her just temporarily. She reluctantly agrees. Shortly after, he falls and breaks his leg. He lives with some guy for a time before begging this same lady to take him back in while he recovers. At this point, he's in pretty bad shape. No place to live, no job, no money, a leg still in a cast, confined to crutches, and a neck brace. So he makes the best of it and begs on the street for 2 months while he lives with this lady friend. Too bad his fall didn't kill him, right? It probably would have truly spared a lot of kids. What a nasty creep. So he's a very dramatic fellow. He has lots of fights with his lady friend and her teenage son. No surprise, since he was raised in such an environment. After one big fight, she kicks him out for good. They have a few more dramatic encounters, and it culminates in him showing back up at her house and lunging for her throat. The lady and her son hide out at a neighbor's house for a while after this encounter. He later writes an apology letter asking for her forgiveness. So he moves from town to town and just couch surfs, basically. Locals notice him wandering in between towns, drunk, and making his way to another person's couch until he has an angry outburst there and is kicked out again. He abuses girlfriends, fights with coworkers, and just doesn't know how to behave like a normal person. Due to his constant quarrels with people, He eventually runs out of houses to stay at and becomes a homeless drifter, roaming western Colombia. Suffering from untreated severe depression and having a guilty conscience for all of the heinous crimes that he's committed, he often finds himself waking up crying. His nightmares haunted by the hundreds of children that he's tortured, raped, and murdered. These episodes are followed up with fits of hysterical laughter as his mind wanders from the pain that he inflicts on the innocent children to the pleasure that he received from committing such disgusting crimes, and then from the pain in their eyes as they suffer extreme torture at his hand. This creep deserves to be tortured and murdered in like manner, if you ask me. Over time, he grows weary, or maybe bored, of murdering young boys who he considers easy to lure away. He decides to commit a mass murder. He plans to abduct several adults and then murder them. Sounds like an intricate plan. Lunatic. His desire is to get the attention of the media, and he considers the possibility of dying during this mass murder. Thankfully, before this crazy nutso could carry out his plan, he is arrested for attempted assault of a 12-year-old boy in April of 1999. We see his MO become targeting poor young males between the ages of 6 to 13, with one exception being a 16-year-old crippled boy. These boys are homeless, orphans, or peasant types. He lures them with candy, money, and offers of jobs. He would dress as priests, monks, farmers, homeless men, street vendors, fortune tellers, bakers, drug dealers, school teachers, charity workers, bar and restaurant managers, elderly men, and gamblers. Satanic ritual was often incorporated, something like blood sacrifices. Now, I'm not going to go into super detail here because it's really gross. So all I'm going to say is that the victims repeatedly endured prolonged rape and torture. I mean, real bad stuff. He would stab with screwdrivers, flay buttocks, knock out teeth, sever genitals, and really I'm not going to elaborate anymore. So, yeah, don't look it up, it's horrifying. So this piece of crap deserves to be skinned alive, eviscerated, and stabbed 1,000 times for what he did to those poor kids. I sure hope there is a special place in hell for dirtbags like this. So evil. Unimaginable levels of wickedness inside this guy. I believe he probably made a pact with the devil, because no one could commit these unimaginable acts of torture 400 times unless they were besties with the devil. What a mess. So 4 victims survived. I would say good for them, but I'm not sure good for them. Not if they had to endure that stuff and manage to survive. I don't know how good that would be. So in October of 1992, boys just started disappearing rapidly off the streets of Colombia. Due to the decades-long civil war, many kids were homeless and poor or orphaned. And so these disappearances went unnoticed for a long time. As groupings of bodies started popping up all over Colombia, authorities began to take notice in 1997 when they uncover a mass grave holding 41 children. This, of course, opens a huge can of worms, as you can imagine. The bodies are examined, and once it's realized just how mutilated they are, the belief is that a satanic cult is responsible, or perhaps a really twisted child trafficking ring. In 1999, more bodies are uncovered in various locations across Colombia. This is where he gets caught, thankfully, to the good part. So he lures a boy to a field. After murdering the boy, he passes out drunk with a still lit cigarette. It catches the field on fire. The fire wakes him up, but he sustains severe burns, and in his panic, he leaves behind his glasses and wallet, among other things. The authorities find receipts and a note with an address, which is traced back to a girlfriend. They used the type of glasses that he left behind to predict age and type of eye condition. Upon analyzing his shoes, they determined he has a limp, and they got an estimated height from that as well. It's pretty fascinating. So they throw another guy in jail and believe he's responsible until boys keep disappearing. Meanwhile, the lead detective still suspects Luis and tracks down this girlfriend and a sister. The girlfriend provides a suitcase, remember that suitcase that contains all of his trophies, She doesn't know that though, right? She just hands it over. He is picked up a few days later, unrelated to the investigation. He is caught attempting to rape a 12-year-old boy. Another boy sees and intervenes, throwing stones at Luis. He leaves the child to go attack the other when both flee. The authorities are notified and locate him shortly after. He is arrested on April 22, 1999 on separate charges of attempted rape. They try to get him to confess to being La Bestia. He denies over and over for months that he had anything to do with it. The police want more than just a confession, though. They know that the glasses belong to someone with an extremely rare eye condition. In an effort to avoid suspicion, they have the entire jail get eye exams. They didn't want him trying to conceal his eye condition. And it worked. They matched the glasses found at the scene to his rare condition. They also took DNA and matched the DNA found at various crime scenes. Eventually, he confesses to murdering 140 children. He is charged with 172 murders in Colombia. He is found guilty of 138 of the 172 counts. He is sentenced to 1,853 years and 9 days in prison, the longest sentence in the history of Colombia. However, Colombian law permits prison sentences to a max 40 years. And since he helped locate bodies, they reduced the sentence to 22 years, which is ridiculous and a shame. Bunch of idiots. They should just do the death penalty. Simple. So he's being held in a maximum security prison. He is isolated for fear that he would just start taking people out one at a time, just randomly just start murdering folks. Like, just why not, He is eligible for parole. This is scary. In 2023, so, next year. That's terrifying. This dirtbag has plans to enter Colombian Congress, enter the ministry as a Pentecostal pastor, and marry a woman. And he wants to help abused children. Well, that's creepy. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking it and subscribing to this channel. One of my awesome subscribers asked me to create content on a few different guys, so to honor that request, next week we're going to learn all about Richard Cottingham, known as the Torso Killer, the Times Square Killer, and the New York Ripper. He is an American serial killer and rapist who murders at least a dozen young girls and women in New York and New Jersey between 1967 and 1980. Nearly 30 years later, he admits to committing at the very least 80 to 100, quote, perfect murders of women all around the United States. If proven, that would make him the most prolific American serial killer ever. Yikes. Catch all the details surrounding this nutcase right here on All Things True Crime. It's truly chilling. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay safe.